Hello guys, Vîrulence here, and I'm going to give you a tutorial about how to play an Unholy Death Knight in patch 6.2.4 in Warlords Season 3 of PvP. To start off this little tutorial, I'm going to be going over the macros that will be used for the Unholy Death Knight, most of them pertaining to controlling the pet. Now, to start off, you want to manage the pet, because the pet is a major boost to your survivability in some cases, your CC, and damage. So to start off, you want to macro all of your attacks. So Scourge Strike, Death Coil, Death Siphon, Festering Strike, Plague Strike, Soul Reaper, Chains of Ice, and if you would like to, Icy Touch, to macro it in with your pet. Because the reason is, the default AI or artificial intelligence or anything like that usually has about a 2 to 3 second delay before pets will switch targets with you originally. So if you macro all of your attacks with the pet, you can get your pet to switch targets with you immediately, as so. And that in, so you want all it is just, say for Death Siphon, you just use Death Siphon / pet attack. Simple as that. Just macro that in with all of your attacks. That way you can get your pet to switch targets with you immediately, and that way you can put your pet on passive, so that way you don't just automatically just attack something. The next is you want to have all the pet's abilities, so Gnaw, Leap, and Huddle. You want to make a macros for them. Gnaw for the stun, Leap for just leaping at somebody, or if he's transformed, Charging, which interrupts and roots the target, and Huddle, which is the pet's defensive, best used when he's transformed. That way he can still attack while having a 50% damage reduction. And after that, you should get a macro for Death Coil and putting your pet on follow. So, such as this, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. I'm going to attack this target dummy for a moment. Alright, so the pet's attacking, so say you need to retreat and you need to have your pet retreat with you. You have this macro for your Death Coil to automatically be thrown at the pet to heal it up, and also calls it back with you, so that way you don't automatically just lose him. Because where an Unholy Death Knight, just constantly resummon the pet, it does have a 1 minute cooldown, and it's a big hassle to resummon the pet and just have it get killed immediately just because you didn't get it to retreat with you. So it's a good idea to have a macro that you can call the pet back with you and also throw Death Coils at it to heal it so you don't have to target it. So that's a good macro to have there. And so, now that we got those, the other macros that you would like to use is one for Chains of Ice. Your Chains of Ice is also macroed with the pet to make it attack, but here is the /cast target mouse over exists to make your Chains of Ice be applied to anything you just hover your mouse over, like that. So you don't have to target anything. It makes things a little easier to CC people when you're trying to defend flag carriers and Reddit battlegrounds, or if you're trying to just root a warrior in arena before he charges you. That's a really good thing. It helps out a hell of a lot. It messes them up and quite often pisses them off too. Another thing for the macros is you should, if you'd like, macro your Death Grip for a specific arena target. And mine is set for Arena 1 originally, because usually that's where the healer is set. But depending on where the healer is, you want to set your Death Grip to be whichever arena frame is the healer in arenas. That way you can just grip the healer into your group if you're running specific comps that are melee-wise, so such as Walking Dead. You want to do setups for healer. You have your Death Grip macro to automatically grip the healer in when you're ready for your setups. TSG, if the healer got away, just grip him back and just keep mongoloiding him. Other comps like that. And that should possibly do it for the macros for right now. So the next thing we'll step into is the talents and glyphs that you'll most likely use for an Unholy Death Knight. Now, we'll start off with Unholy Blight. Now, Unholy Blight is more meant for rated battlegrounds than Arena, where you get into team fights and you just pop Unholy Blight, and right there you can have the pressure of a fully stacked Necrotic Plague within seconds of the start of the team fight. See, as you can see, by the time Unholy Blight ends, you have a fully stacked Necrotic Plague ready to go. And it's putting out pressure, and after that, if it's not spread to everybody, just one single Blood Boil, spread it, and you got some max pressure going on. I have a Transform ready to go. If you just pop that, pop your Trinket, and just all you do is spam Festering Strike on that, just to keep Necrotic Plague up there stacked to 15, and just Blood Boil, spread it everywhere. Just aids, ticking constantly for roughly, I don't know, probably 20k max, maybe even more. In Arena, it's probably better to go with Plague Bearer, or if they're dumbasses and they stay close to you, you can still use Unholy Blight. I use it just because it's easier for me to put out that pressure immediately, where Unholy is not as more bursty as Frost is. You can be pretty bursty if you can get Necrotic Plague stacked up there pretty quickly. The next one you want to go with is Lichborn. That's a given. You always want to have that defensive there. Immune to fears, charms, and sleeps. Also gives you 10% leech and also allows you to throw Death Coil at yourself, which therefore is a macro for Lichborn right here. Lichborn and cast target is your name and then Death Coil. That way you can just heal yourself with Death Coil if you ever in need of that kind of thing. For next is your rune management talents. I specifically go with Runic Corruption because Unholy Death Knights, they used to stack a lot of haste when it came up to Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm. Haste was the big thing. But since Mastery is the new thing, it's best to go with something that would help you manage your runes a little better. For me, I go with Runic Corruption, and it makes it a lot easier for me to manage. Most people go with Blood Tap, and some go with Runic Empowerment, but I would recommend going with Runic Corruption above all. Next, we have our Death Siphon, Conversion or Death Pact. Best to go with Death Siphon, where Unholy Death Knights have the huge advantage of having shadow damage increase from the Mastery stack. It has a huge effect on the healing that we get off of Death Siphon. Let's take a little bit of damage here. Okay. Where the Mastery stack is pretty good for us, it allows us to get some pretty decent heals off there. Roughly around, I think the highest heal I've received off of the Death Siphon is probably around about 80 to 90k probably. It's a really good heal if it crits, especially. So the next tier is Gorfing's Grasp, Remorseless Winter, Desecrated Ground. The best choice to go with would be Desecrated Ground, simply because it is basically your own personal little trinket, and it lasts for 10 seconds in a specific little area. So say you want to do a setup on the healer. You can basically do your setup, you can grip that healer in, get him stuck in a Fist of Fury, and you can drop Desecrated Ground if you choose, if you're not in any dire situation. That way you can just do that setup and you cannot be CC'd whatsoever. It's game over from there, basically. And otherwise, you could go with Gorfing's Grasp to grip everybody in for that Unholy Blight stack. Crazy. I wouldn't recommend going with Remorseless Winter, simply because your pet already has a stun, and that would just DR and be useless, basically. And last is the Given. That's Necrotic Plague. That dead Given. I shouldn't have to explain why to go for Necrotic Plague over that. And I also forgot to mention Death's Advanced, Chillblains, or Asphyxiate. Don't go with Asphyxiate for the same reason you wouldn't go for Remorseless Winter. It's useless because your pet already has a stun and it would just DR and cause you a whole lot of grief. I would go with Chillblains simply because if you pop Unholy Blight and you're stacking the Necrotic Plague, it also constantly restacks the Chillblains so that people are constantly slowed, and it makes your Chains of Ice root people that you get, therefore pissing warriors off when they try to charge you for their initial setup in arena. That would be the talent choices I would specifically go with. It's well-rounded, but if you want to experiment with the others, feel free to do so. Next, I would like to talk about the rotation for an Unholy Death Knight. So, on original setups, when you are opening up in an arena, or even opening it up in a rated battleground, you always want to open up with your Outbreak. Outbreak will be the first applier for everything, and just do your 2 Festering Strikes, so that way you can convert your runes to death runes. Throw out a couple of death coils, but don't completely deplete your runic power, and then throw a couple more death coils, and then just keep on Scourge Striking until you get your Festering runes back. By the time you get your runes back, you should be able to transform the pet. Just Festering Strike those, get them back into death runes. Once you get that, pop everything, and just start Scourge Striking away. That's mainly what you would like to do for the initial rotation. That is just the default rotation that would be best suited to go with. But if you're in any kind of situation, it's basically situational from there. You could be spamming Icy Touch to dispel anything. You could be spamming Chains of Ice to get people off of you, things like that. But that's basically the Outbreak, 2 Festering Strikes, throw 2 Death Coils, Scourge Strike from then on. And you'll be pulling pretty good DPS, especially in rated battlegrounds. If you pop the Unholy Blight, pop the Trinket, you'll usually pull a good 40k DPS, if not higher. I've had it happen quite a few times. So, next would be the glyphs that we need to go with. I would highly recommend, well, this isn't my main character, so don't listen to what these glyphs are, but I would highly recommend going Anti-Magic Shell, increasing the duration of Anti-Magic Shell by 3 seconds. That's a must. Next would be the Glyph of Empowerment. Give your Empower Rune Weapon a 30% of your max life heal. That's really good for Arena. I wouldn't recommend it for rated battlegrounds, simply because you have your healers. You shouldn't have to use it. So, in place of it for rated battlegrounds, I would go with either Blood Boil, or I would go with actually just Blood Boil, sorry. Just go with Blood Boil. And then don't ever use the Glyph of Death and Decay. I don't know why I'm actually using it, but in place of that one, always, it's a must, get the Icy Touch, making your Icy Touch dispel a magic effect from the target. That's a dead given, that's a must, you must have it. And for minor glyphs, that's whatever you choose, that's user preference. None of them really provide any kind of benefit towards whatever. So, managing your defensives, I'd highly recommend getting an add-on called Low HP Alert. It alerts you as soon as you hit your 50% health marker, and it also puts text on the screen letting you know, hey, you're at 50% and going down. From then on, when you hit 50% and you're still going down, I would pop like an anti-magic shell just to kind of relieve some of that damage and help your healer get you back up there. And if anti-magic shell ends and you're not going up in health, by the time you hit about 30%, I would highly recommend popping your Icebound Fortitude from then on. And immediately go into Blood Presence. That's a dead given right there. As soon as you start taking damage, turn that Blood Presence on. You gotta have it. Otherwise, stay in Unholy Presence. And that just about sums it up for how to play an Unholy Death Knight in patch 6.2.4 Warlord Season 3. I hope this video helps out. If it did, please comment down below, and also like the video. It'll help me know that I did a good job for people, and it will also help towards getting some more videos out there for some more people. I also play a couple of other classes that I tend to be pretty good at. I could put some tutorials out there for them. If you guys have any suggestions of what you'd like me to put out there, please feel free to comment on it. But I hope this helps, and enjoy kicking the shit out of people in whatever you decide to do with this knowledge. Thank you very much.